My name is Vertus Robinson. I'm the ministerial intern for the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. And I extend a warm welcome to each of you on this cool spring day that we welcome warmly. And thank you for joining us in this time of worship from wherever you are. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1864. We are a liberal, progressive religious community that welcomes all as we journey together seeking spiritual wholeness and justice in this world that we live in. Whether you're a newcomer or a longtime member or somewhere in between, we are so glad that you have joined us this morning. If you're joining us in Zoom, the chat function will be on for much of the service. It is a great way to welcome and support one another, to affirm the hard work and effort of our church leaders, and to share good vibes and positive thoughts with each other. For issues and constructive thoughts, please join us for coffee hour, and also join us for coffee hour for meet and greeting and reflections on the service in general. In order to hold some moments of focused and worshipful quiet together, we'll be turning off the chat before the prayer and through the sermon. Thank you to our virtual greeters who are offering hospitality and tech help throughout the service. Additionally, gotta love it, right? A warm welcome. And additionally, the Zoom, on Zoom, click the live transcript button wherever it lives on your screen for increased accessibility. Again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you. And now, let us enter more deeply into our time of worship with our prelude.
Thank you, Eliza. Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be worshiping with you this morning. I am the Reverend Joan Javier-Duval, minister of the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. These opening words are from the ministry of Enfleshed. To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some, and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within, responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding of our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help from friends and lovers, family, and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive and say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that. This is loving and being loved. Come, let us worship together this morning. And let us join in our opening song, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. I invite you to sing along from wherever you are, to take in the music and the lovely photos which are offered by members of our choir. I could hear you across the internet waves. Thank you. Let us now light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I invite you to join me in lighting a chalice at home if you have one nearby. We light this chalice, enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. And please join me in saying these words of affirmation adapted from Universalist minister L. Griswold Williams. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant. During this morning's service, we honor the newest members of the Unitarian Church of Montpelier in their decision to formalize their commitment to this community by joining our congregation. As Unitarian Universalists, we come together with the understanding that being in community together is more important than dogma and creed. Thus, the relationships that we build in our congregations and the trust and dialogue that come in those relationships are essential to our faith. Freely entering into the bond of membership is one way of deepening your relationship to this religious community. While anyone, member or friend, can participate actively in the life of this community, those who become members are choosing to make a special commitment to be active and engaged participants and decision makers of the congregation, to be in covenantal relationship with other members of the church, and to affirm their sense of belonging in a more formal way. Anyone who is 14 years old or older who is committed to our mission can join the church as a member. If you're interested in learning more about membership at any point, you can contact me or Elaine Ball, our congregational life coordinator, or someone from our membership committee as well. We are so glad that the 8 new members that we are introducing this morning have found a spiritual home here at the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. And now Elaine Ball, our congregational life coordinator, has some thoughts that she will share.
Good morning. I am Elaine Ball, and I'm the congregational life coordinator here at UCM. I've had the pleasure of working with our membership and hospitality committee since September of 2018. And we have weathered many changes together, shifting from one Sunday worship service at 10 a.m. to 2 services at 9 and 11, shifting from in-person gatherings to virtual during a global pandemic. And through it all, our congregation has shown incredible kindness, flexibility, resilience, strength, and compassion. Our ministry of hospitality is an all-church ministry, one that you all have shown yourselves to embrace since well before I became a new member myself in the fall of 2017. This morning, I would particularly like to thank our current membership and hospitality committee members, Barbara Thompson, Ted Allen, Denise Bailey, Art Stuckey, and Pam Walker, and to offer a warm invitation to you if you're feeling called to be a more active part of the spiritual work of welcoming all as we build a loving community. Please reach out to volunteer. As our church community continues to grow, we are always in need of additional committee members to help with our outreach. I've had the pleasure in the past few months to meet and get to know the 8 new members we will be welcoming into our UCM community today. And I'm so excited that you will all be meeting them and getting to know them virtually today and in the months to come. Our membership and hospitality committee, board, and staff will be joining with you, our congregation, to covenant with our new members this morning. And throughout the coming weeks, I will be sharing additional photos and bios about them in our weekly e-newsletters. Please be sure to reach out to them personally and welcome them in. Our 8 new members who have recently signed our membership book, or will be signing it soon when they're able to safely in person, are Jeremy Beaudry, Jennifer Matthews, Bill Newberger, Gail Picard, Kathleen Poole, Gretchen Stahl, and Amy and Ashley Sweet. I would also like to read out the names of the new members who joined our UCM community in 2019 before the global pandemic closed down our church building, and in 2020, even while we have all been gathering virtually. And I'd like to invite each of them, if they are with us this morning, as their names are read, to just give a wave. You won't be spotlit, but perhaps as I'm reading these names, everyone can scroll through their gallery view pages of participants here in the Zoom worship service, just to see if you recognize any of these names and faces. It is wonderful to see how many of you are still so actively engaged in our UCM community, showing that truly, even though our building is closed, our church is indeed still open. In 2019, we welcomed Mary Baum, Ginny and Laura Brooke, Chris Colt, Joel and Jackie Dennison, Paul Hill, Eliza Homick, Hugo Liepman, Cass Madison, Aaron Marcus, Betty McKinnell, Sarah Rosenthal, Tom Sherston, Jean Thurston and Gordon Young, Del Waterhouse, Kim Cheney, Catherine and Steve Codius, Jenny Druitz and Phil Stymick, Georgina and Numa Haas, Lisa Marcus, and Juliana Plummer. And in 2020, we welcomed Nadine Budbill and Mia Rothling, Bryce Douglas, Michaela Engert, Dawn Evans, Kathy Hartshorn, Gilly Hopkins and Molly McGraw, Elaine and Rob McIntyre, and Emily Seifert. Now, today, as we introduce our 8 new members to you, Virtus will share their photos with you as Barbara reads a few sentences introduction about them. We hope that you will find some common interests with them and feel inspired to reach out, make some new friends, and continue building this beloved community, this interconnected web of all existence, of which we are all a part. Ashe and blessed be.
These first 5 of our 8 new members will be familiar to many of you. They have been active friends of our congregation for years. Jeremy Beaudry, Gretchen Stahl, Jennifer Matthews, Bill Newberger, and Kathleen Poole. Jen Matthews and Bill Newberger live in Montpelier with their kids, Oscar and Anna. Jen is an occupational therapist, Bill a mechanical engineer. Oscar is headed to college in July to study paramedicine, and Anna is in grade 10. They moved to Vermont in 2006 and have been attending UCM since 2016. Kathleen Mary Poole arrived in these hills 26 years ago from coastal Massachusetts. She returns often to visit her daughter, her only grandchild, and great Mother Ocean, who feeds her soul. She loves to plant seeds, sing songs, and be inspired by the mystery. Her great-great-grandfather, Jeremy Farnsworth, was a Universalist minister in Medford, Mass. Amy Lindeman, soon to be Sweet, and Ashley Sweet both grew up in Vermont. They started regularly attending UCM during the pandemic on Zoom. Amy has her own private practice as a psychotherapist, and Ashley is a registered nurse at the local hospital. They can't wait to attend services at the church to meet everyone in person. Gail Picard has been a UU for over 30 years, starting at the mainline Unitarian Church in Devon, Pennsylvania. She and her husband, Bob, were married at the Unitarian Church in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Once she moved to Vermont, Gail started looking for her new spiritual home and is delighted to have found it at UCM.
Thank you, Barbara, for introducing those new members. And now the congregation is invited to join with our new members in our litany of membership based on our congregational covenant. The following people will each be speaking a section, and all of you watching are invited to join with them while you remain muted on Zoom. We have Paul Hartman, our board vice president, Ted Allen from the membership committee, and Gail Picard for our new members. And I'll just ask that Paul, Ted, and Gail, if you make sure you're unmuted and ready to go, and Paul will lead us off.
We are the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. We are bound together by love within this safe and nurturing community.
We gather as we are and as we aspire to be. We accept some discomfort to stretch beyond past boundaries and habits.
We covenant to
speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within.
treat each other with compassion and honor our differences.
Take responsibility for the impact our words, actions, and inactions have on each other.
Support each other in times of need and of grief, and celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives.
Honor the gifts of the past and be gentle with each other as we grow.
Encourage each other in the brave work of creating a more beloved community and a healthy, sustainable world.
And forgive each other and start again. Thank you all. And now everyone who's participating on Zoom will be allowed to unmute momentarily so that we can share in making a joyful noise in celebration and welcome for these new members. Feel free to unmute and welcome them in.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody. That's a lovely noise, even on Zoom. We'll also have a chance to meet some of our new members during the coffee hour. Thank you for that warm words of greeting.
And now we move into a more meditative moment in our service after that wonderful, joyful noise. So I invite you each to maybe take a couple of deep breaths and settle in. And let this music be just what you need it to be for you this morning. Come and find the quiet center in the crowded lives we lead. Find the room for hope to enter. Find the frame where we are freed. Clear the chaos and the clutter. Clear our eyes that we can see all the things that really matter. Be at peace and simply be. Simply be.
I have two readings to share with you this morning. And the first is by the French-Cuban-American writer Anaïs Nin. We do not grow absolutely, chronologically. We grow sometimes in one dimension and not in another, unevenly. We grow partially. We are relative. We are mature in one realm, childish in another. The past, present, and future mingle and pull us backward, forward, or fix us in the present. We are made of layers, cells, constellations. And the second reading is by the Reverend Kendyl Gibbons from a keynote address entitled On Becoming a Grown-Up, Spiritual Maturity with and Without God. Just as we grow and mature physically and keep ourselves healthy with regular exercise, just as we grow and mature mentally and develop our minds through learning, just as we grow and mature emotionally and deepen our relationships by intentionally sharing ourselves with others, just as we grow and mature ethically and build moral character from the values to which we are loyal, so I am persuaded that we also grow and mature spiritually as well. Religious community exists to hold out the possibility and the importance of that inner ripening, to suggest that our humanity is most fully realized as we become more spiritually mature. Here ends the reading. The title of today's sermon is Becoming a Spiritual Grown-Up. I admit that it was crafted with a bit of irony. This sermon's title is intentionally tongue-in-cheek and not an entirely sincere claim on our developmental progress as spiritual beings. Just as the term adulting has become a humorous take on the trials and tribulations of the millennial generation's entrance into adulthood, the idea of becoming a spiritual grown-up, for me, speaks somewhat humorously to both the promise and the challenges of such an endeavor. A meme I saw recently illustrates this well. It's a photo of 3 little owls on a branch, and 2 of the owls have their claws securely clamped onto the branch, and they are looking out calmly and confidently. They are labeled real adults. The 3rd owl is at the very end of the branch. It has a precarious grip on the branch with just 1 claw, and the other is flailing around. And this little owl is labeled, me trying my best. There are times when I feel very solidly like the real adult owls, and other times when I feel more like that little owl at the end of the branch, clinging and flailing at the same time. Perhaps you can relate. Growing up is hard to do, as the old adage goes. And yet, developmental maturation of all kinds is a part of our human existence. Whole courses of study and theories have been dedicated to mapping human development from the earliest moments of childhood to the latest stages of adulthood. We are developmental creatures who grow and change, and as creatures of self-reflection, we seek to define and to understand our very own development. As the reading from the Reverend Kendyl Gibbons points to, we grow and mature physically, mentally, emotionally, and ethically. And we can also recognize that the spiritual part of the self also has the potential to develop and mature. Of all of these aspects of growing and becoming, spiritual maturity may be the most difficult to define. There are clear benchmarks and markers for physical growth from infancy up to adulthood. Not everyone develops along the exact same trajectories, which is just fine, but we make good efforts to establish quantifiable metrics of physical growth. Every wellness exam we've taken our son to has included measuring his weight and his height. We have similarly approached mental and intellectual development as another aspect of human growth with clear benchmarks. It's generally understood that one advances in this area of development by mastering concepts that grow one's capacities. Now, how we measure these capacities and assign value to them is a worthy debate. Emotional development and ethical development can also be defined and measured to some degree with benchmarks for empathy and relating to others, making decisions that take into account the needs of others. Defining progress when it comes to spiritual growth and development does present some challenges given the relative intangibility of this aspect of human becoming. For many of us, words are inadequate to describe what a faith or spiritual life even entails. Despite these challenges, I do believe that spiritual maturity is possible. Reverend Kendyl Gibbons, whose words I shared earlier, says that spiritual maturity happens when we begin to reflect on the existential realities of our lives and the meaning that we make of those realities. We grow into maturity as we reach out of our embeddedness toward a larger perspective and a new self-understanding. I believe that spiritual maturity can bring greater fulfillment, meaning, and happiness, and that when it's realized on a grand scale, spiritual maturity can also lead us towards collective flourishing, liberation, and peace. I recently had a chance to hear Brian McLaren speak at the Revolutionary Love Conference, an annual conference hosted by Middle Collegiate Church in New York City. Brian McLaren is an author and public theologian whose religious career began when he founded and then pastored a large non-denominational Christian congregation in the Washington, D.C. area. He has since become one of the leading voices on the religious left, working with progressive clergy of many religious backgrounds to bring justice-centered faith to the public square. McLaren has written about his faith and spiritual journey in many books, and his latest, entitled Faith After Doubt, presents what I find to be an intriguing and helpful framework for approaching the process of becoming that is faith and spiritual development. As with other models of human development, McLaren conceives of this process in stages. Now, I tend to be skeptical of any process that is depicted as entirely linear. So if you are too, I assure you that this isn't the case in McLaren's model. He invites the reader to imagine the growth of a tree. With a tree trunk, each new stage of growth creates a ring around the other. And in McLaren's model, the same kind of growth happens as a person moves from one stage of faith development to the next. And there are 4 stages that he describes. Stage 1 is dubbed simplicity. Stage 2, complexity. Stage 3, perplexity. And stage 4, harmony. In stage 1, we see things in a dualistic fashion, good and bad, right and wrong. We look to authority figures to help us learn what and who falls into these categories. In stage 2, we see things pragmatically. We are motivated to achieve and be successful. From a faith or spiritual standpoint, we seek coaching and support to learn the right answers and to adopt the successful practices of being a good fill in the blank, Christian, Muslim, Jew, or in our case, Unitarian Universalist. In stage 3, we become more critical. This stage is marked by skepticism and deconstruction. You are encouraged in this stage to question and challenge the status quo, which is a hallmark of this stage. And finally, in stage 4, you see things in an integral and holistic way. Key values of this stage are being compassionate and seeking the common good. We are motivated in this stage to find connection, to see things whole and make contributions. In this stage, life is received as a mysterious gift, and God, if that is part of one's faith, is known through experience and metaphor as a loving presence and creative wisdom, rather than a supreme being. Moving the spiritual seeker along from one stage to the next is doubt. According to McLaren, as one begins to ask questions that cannot be answered or addressed by the values and orientation of the current stage, one then opens up to the next and the possibilities for growth that lie therein. These stages are also iterative, meaning one returns repeatedly to each stage throughout one's life, growing and changing and adding ever more layers of understanding and meaning. This was a much simplified version of the model that McLaren puts forward, but I hope it gives you a sense of it. And perhaps you can even see your own path reflected in these stages in some way. Now, the kind of faith and spiritual development that McLaren presents and that I wish to invite you to this morning isn't a course to be completed with exams along the way that will tell you whether you've mastered one level or another, how many rings you're growing in your development. No, that would be an entirely stage 2 approach. Instead, I want to affirm you wherever you may be in your process of becoming spiritually mature and invite you to reflect on your own process of becoming. You may be thinking, I've never really given this much thought. You may be full of all kinds of doubt right in this moment. You may be enjoying blissful harmony and a sense of gratitude for all that you've learned and the ways that you've extended that learning into loving action in the world. I invite you to notice, accept, and appreciate wherever you are on your journey. Here at the Unitarian Church of Montpelier, we seek to support one another in becoming more aware and intentional in this spiritual growing up. We assert in our mission statement that one key reason we exist is to nurture each person's spiritual journey. And so we come together virtually, mostly these days, wherever we are on our individual paths, to affirm and to support one another in community and covenant. I know that this kind of support is being given and received each Sunday morning in Children's Chapel, in our small group ministry, in our Soul Matters circles, our Seasoned Souls groups, our Owning Your Religious Past group, in our racial justice and climate action groups, and beyond. As we welcome 8 new members this morning, I want to affirm the ways that becoming an official member of this community is also a marker of one's spiritual journey. When someone chooses to become a member of this congregation, it is usually done with thought and care about what it means to belong and to commit to a community like ours. I believe that anytime we weigh our commitments and set our hearts upon engaging actively with others for a greater purpose of common good, we are engaging in a process of spiritual maturation. We are growing and becoming more fully human. Brian McLaren's framework for faith and spiritual development can be understood not only for the individual, but also for a community at large. religious communities as a whole might find themselves in simplicity, complexity, perplexity, or harmony, or might even embody and offer aspects of all four stages. According to McLaren, a religious community at stage 4, harmony, has grown and developed to become a community of faith expressing itself in love. A community of faith expressing itself in love. I believe that our calling as the Unitarian Church of Montpelier is to be such a community, a place where our faith, a faith without dogma or doctrine, is expressed in love, and where we nurture belonging, meaning, and purpose so that each of us can practice, embody, and proclaim this love. Through the uncertainty and challenge in our midst, in the face of injustice and environmental instability, with a faith expressed in love, let us continue to grow and to become into harmony together. So may it be.
And we move now to our closing hymn, Woyaya, which is probably familiar for many of you. And it lifts up that wonderful feeling of uncertainty and living in uncertainty. It was written, maybe not surprisingly, by a group of people and generously shared by Issei Barnwell of Sweet Honey in the Rock. Please sing along, and I invite you to stand in body or spirit if you would like. Woyaya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah, yeah.
These closing words are by Eric Williams. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace. And we conclude our service with the postlude.
Thank